Hey, Pussy Gloves here, and this is the fourth video in the Kontakt from the Ground Up tutorial series. And today, we are going to be talking about the Output tab. And the reason this tab is so important is, let's say you've got a whole bunch of instruments. You want to load up one instance of Kontakt. You're a conservative CPU user because your computer just is not manly. So you load up a bunch of different instances and you want to be able to control them individually. And what's more, you want to be able to send them to individual tracks on your mixer track. And I can demonstrate real quick, except for that one because I routed that one weird. As you can see, it pops up insert 1, insert 2, and so on and so forth. And so how did I do this? Because they're clearly affecting different sounds as well. Well, I'm going to show you how to do this in FL Studios. It may be different in your DAW, but I believe the principles will be generally the same. So let's just open up a Kontakt right now. So the output, this is a general mixer too. So you can send audio. So let's open up a sound. I'm going to open up I'm tired of that. I'm going to open up a Ragtime Piano. And you see it pops up right here on our output when we click that. And you can actually add effects in here. You have all sorts of filters and EQs and effects. And yes, I have various videos on my channel about this in various scenarios. So I'm going to hold back on explaining what all these things do right now. It looks somewhat similar to the FM8 dealios, but you can add an effect in there and you can edit the effect by clicking this edit effect up here. And you actually see all the settings of the effect, and you can go on to change it. I recommend looking up my FM8 effects part 1 and part 2, as these effects are very similar, except for there's a lot more here. So that's what these are, and you can change those by, these are called inserts, and you can change those by disappear, and the inserts disappear, give you some more room up here. And poof, they're back. All your inserts are back. This is your fader, just controls your volume. It's demonstrated down here. Again, hold down control and click to reset that. And you can see on our dB, our decibel meter right here, how loud our sound is. It's also reflected up here in our channel header. I forgot what it's called exactly right now. This right here shows the routing it's set up to go to. So we click here and we can see KTST1, plug-in out one, and this is the auxiliary outs. Now, when you buy Kontakt, you should be able to, I know I just went through a bunch of menus, but I'm just showing you something. You have a bunch of different options. You have Kontakt, regular, just 4 outs, 8, or 16. So you may want 16 if you plan to open up one. I tend to be the kind of person who opens up like 20 Kontakts in one project. If your Kontakts are running really slow, you got a lot of lag, because I had that problem when I first got started. I was freaking out. It's because your samples are somewhere weird in your file system. You've got to put them back where they expect them, which is usually in the user directory, or not in the user. It's in the public directory for documents. You may, or you could just tell Kontakt where to find your files. I mean, for me, at the time, I didn't understand that I could do that. I thought they had to be in a specific spot, so I was freaking out. But you could just tell Kontakt, hey, the files are over there, and it will find them, and it'll work just fine. Now, with Kontakt, you're going to need some RAM if your computer's still running slow after that. So if you have like crappy RAM, or your computer's busy doing a lot of other tasks, like running your operating system, you're going to have a harder time. But anyways, back to what we were talking about. So you can see the routing right here. So how do we get our individual instruments to respond? Well, if you look up here, you have this thing called Midi Channel, and you can set that channel. So you can come down here, you can set it to Omni, so it responds to all your channels, or you could set it to respond to a specific channel. And it will tell you, see, like port B, C, and D are not available for me currently, but port A is. So how did I control them using these guys? Well, this is a plugin called Midi Out, and it allows me to send MIDI signals, and that's pretty much all it does. It just does MIDI. And what I did was I set it to port 0. On port 0, I set it to channel 1. So each port has like a whole bunch of channels associated with it. So I went to port 1, I'd have like channels 1 through 40 something or whatever, however many. But I'm on port 0, so I have those same channels 1 through however many, like a whole new set of channels. And these are a whole bunch of scary options. Don't worry about those. I'm more concerned with just the keyboard right now. And this is, again, specific to FL Studios. So let's say you want to set it up so that each one controls it. So I set up this one to be port 0 channel 2, and this one's port 0 channel 3. And you notice that they're controlling different sounds. Well, let's get rid of this first contact to prevent confusion, because I'm going to use these same guys. So once you have your ports and channels figured out, how do you get Kontakt to say, like, hey, this is the channel? Well, you have to set up your thing. So let's load up a few sounds. So let's load up some very different sounds. So I just loaded up a sax section, and that's going to Midi Channel 2. But if I hit down here, I got no dice. Like, I'm controlling channel 1 currently. So how do I get it to respond to both? Well, first I could change it to just Omni, so it responds to every channel. And you see I get my piano and my saxophones at the same time. You may not want that. So what you do is now in FL Studios, there's a wrapper setting that allows you to take the internal configuration that's going on right here and route it out. So let's go to up here, and you see we have MIDI input port. This is the port that will take the MIDI. And as we know, each port has a whole bunch of channels. So we're going to put it on port 0. An output port is where Kontakt could send MIDI. We don't care about that right now because we're not sending MIDI anywhere. We want it to take in MIDI. So now we just set it up so it's on port 0. So now each channel that we just set up will receive MIDI data. So now we are controlling our piano, and this is our saxophone section, which is a really nifty dealio. Now, how do you get, now that we can control our sounds individually, how do you get them to go to different mixer tracks? Because right now, they're all on the same one. They're all on the master. Well, in FL Studios, this is how you do it. And I'm sure it's very similar in other DAWs. You go over your, well, first, you come down here to presets, and you have a whole bunch of different options. You can save your output selection. So once you do this once, you will not have to do it again. Ideally. And there's a whole bunch of different options for this. Not super duper important. But what we're going to do is we're going to batch functions. We're going to clear output section and create one individual channel for each loaded instrument. And that seems like a pretty good idea. So let's do that. So we just created a few new channels for our setup right now. And right now, this is actually going, if we click down here, you can change the channel that it's going to if you so desire. But for now, we have our, we've set it up so that they have their own mixture tracks, and we can route them into our auxiliary sends if we so desire. If we want them to receive certain inputs and sounds, you could do routing and things. But if we go over here to our, now I usually do all this stuff in the instrument itself, but this is useful if you have group settings that you want to go through and affect them as a whole. But let's say we want these tracks now to become individual mixer tracks on our mixer and our DAW. We come up here to our little wrapper for our plugins, and you go to processing. Now, you could be real specific, and as you can see, set up specific channel outs, because all our channels are listed here for the channels that we do have in FL Studios, and you can change them here, or you can go to auto map outputs, and you can see it takes the first one as a reference point for the others. But right now we just set it up so that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah 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 blah. And if we go and we look at our plugin that we just had routed, we have that as KTS1. So it would be wise for us to change this to 1 when we click auto map outputs. But anyways, it just gave each one a mixer track. So now our mixer tracks are associated with our mixer. That's what that job is in FL Studio. And so when we hit our individual sounds, it only comes out the assigned mixer, and we can individually affect our sounds. I don't have a third sound loaded up right now, but if we load up one, a tenor saxophone, and it already comes in on channel 3, you can actually change this in options. I believe it's in options. You can change if they come up on their own or if they come in on Omni. but now it's set up. So you can save your setup now and save your settings. You can change a lot of these in options, which we'll talk about later. But you can also set it up so you have an FL Studio template that opens up with a bunch of MIDI outs and stuff. And so you can just start working right away with everything that you need. So as opposed to opening up like 64 contacts, if you could open up just one and work out of that. So those are your options, and you can save output section preset as, and you can set that up to be saved as well. So you can just boom, load that up and you're done. Now that is pretty much the output section in a nutshell. If you have any questions about this, drop them in the comments. Subscribe if you enjoy these videos and find them useful, and have a blessed day.